And away we go. It's just me at the moment. Maybe Eric will join. Not sure about Risk. Either way, it must go on. FEMA removed dozens of Camp Mystic buildings from 100-year-old flood map before expansion. Camp Mystic in Kerr County lost at least 27 campers, councillors, and owner Dick Eastland in historic floodwaters before dawn of July 4th, 2025. The camp was located in a known flood-prone area called Flash Flood Alley and repeatedly sought and received FEMA map amendments, removing dozens of buildings from the 100-year flood hazard zone since 2011. These amendments lessened regulatory oversight and allowed the camp's operation and expansion, including opening a second site in 2020. Despite expert warnings about underestimated flood risks, experts including Syracuse University professor Sarah Parrell called it particularly disturbing that such a camp received exemptions, and data science experts Jeremy Porter said FEMA's flood maps underestimate risk. The tragic flood highlights the limits of FEMA's process, which officials say is arduous but necessary, and stresses the need for stricter regulations and cautious expansion in high-risk flood areas. So this is what I got from this. So apparently the camp was in an area which is prone that was prone to be flooded. There were multiple warnings not to build anything within that area, yet somehow whoever was running the camp thought, let's set up camp here anyway, and who would have thought a flood has taken place and has swept across the said area that was most likely to be flooded, and everyone around that campsite, well, who knows what could happen to them. I hope they're still alive, but is this is a clear example of ignorant planning. It's outrageous what people will do and how far they will go to ensure they just set something up. And there were recommendations of where else to put it instead. But no, let's put it here instead, where although it's likely to be flooded, also what, we'll put up with it. Spoiler alert, they didn't put up with it. The flood happened, and who knows what could happen to those councillors and campers. Just although I hope they're still alive and they are uninjured. I think the ones to be at fault here are the ones who were planning on the location of the campsite to be where it was today. That's on them. They should have considered the alternatives of where else to locate the campsite. Because if you don't take cautionary measures, there will be consequences, especially outside someone's control. Hopefully, this is a lesson to be learnt from that. And now, whatever damages has been done to the campsite, hopefully there is funds to rebuild it, and if they plan on rebuilding it, please put it somewhere else. Surely, if that isn't enough to say where the camp was is very prone and very risky to have been put in place to begin with, I don't know what's going to take a hint on the precise location of the camp and the lives that could have cost or has been cost. It's outrageous. I hope everyone's alright, but man, that's just bad. Very awful. Surely there has to be consequences coming their way for behind the choices that has been made for the campsite's location. Moderna's COVID gets full FDA approval for use in children 6 months and older. In July 2025, Food and Drug Administration granted full approval for Moderna's spike in children 6 months and older at increased risk of COVID-19. Following pediatric trials, the KidCo study showed two 25 microgram doses, macro, nano, well, it's very small, doses of the were safe and elicited immune responses comparable to young adults. The FDA approved these for children 6 months and older based on 3 clinical trials showing safety, immune response, and antibody protection, as supported by Statement Number 39. Shares rose over 3% Thursday morning, reflecting positive market reaction to full FDA approval for pediatric use. Moderna plans to have its updated Spikevax available for the 25-26 season and is developing mRNA 1283 for adult risk group. Now, I'm not going to tell people not to get the treatment they're going to need, or should they need. However, I have seen this story before, and depending who you ask, it does not end well. But of course, what do I know about the healthcare industry? I would still advise people, regardless, to listen to expert advice from the healthcare industry. Otherwise, do question the effectiveness and how far said medication can go. And I think Risk and Eric would certainly have something to say about that, and it's not very positive. So I can't argue with that. I can't argue with the arguments or opinions about what happened around 2020. But if anything has to be taken from this, always stay informed. Always question anything and everything. Not too much, but at least just enough to get an understanding of what you're possibly getting yourself into, and if it's worth the price, the convenience, and the potential symptoms that will come with said medication. Or just saying, prepare yourselves. Sand and dust storms affect about 330 million people in over 150 countries. On 12th of July 2025, the United Nations World Meteorological Organization highlighted that sand and dust storms impact more than 330 million individuals across upwards of 150 nations worldwide. These storms result from environmental changes, poor land management, and harmful human activities, leading to growing health challenges and economic losses both worldwide and in specific regions. The storm have disrupted the Arab region this spring with severe dust events, overwhelming hospitals in Iraq and forcing closures of schools and offices in Kuwait and Iran. Assembly President Philemon Yang highlighted that sand and dust storms are increasingly recognized as a significant and widespread global issue, responsible for about 7 million premature deaths each year. The United Nations designated 2025 to 2034 as a decade to combat these storms, urging collective action with tools like land restoration and early warning systems to reduce escalating health and economic costs. On one hand, that is a good point. It is very important there is technology to always prepare yourself for the worst that is yet to happen. On the other hand, and I know A, not many people agree with it, and B, some stories like this will never be made mainstream until, well, it's already too late and there's nothing we can do about it. And I think, for sure, Risk will have something to say about that. Dare I say, manipulation of the weather. Ooh. And I'm not saying I don't agree with any of this whatsoever, but it's just messed up. The amount of damages and the lives have been lost, it's certainly not worth it. I don't know what these people see in these crises, but it's just not it. And if there is a way to stop it, so be it. I hope there is a way to stop it. But there won't be. And if there is, well, the damage is done. There's no way of going back. Well, I do hope that whoever's responsible for tracking these events and preventing the damages being caused, they go ahead and they are effective as they should be. No more lives are to be lost from this situation. Google DeepMind poaches Windsurf leadership as OpenAI deal collapses. Last Friday, OpenAI's $3 billion acquisition of Windsurf fell apart, prompting Google to hire Windsurf CEO Varun Mohan, co-founder Douglas Chen, and R&D staff to join DeepMind. OpenAI's acquisition exclusively expired last month, ending talks with Windsurf, as the startup remained in advanced negotiations until then. Google pays $2.4 billion for the non-exclusive license from Windsurf, exemplifying a reverse acqui-hire that keeps the startup independent and allows licensing to others. Google's hiring of Windsurf's top talent boosts its Gemini project and intensifies the AI talent race among major tech firms. This licensing-based deal reflects a broader industry trend, potentially attracting antitrust scrutiny as it allows talent access without full acquisitions. Or in other words, pretty much the same activities we see with the soccer football transfer windows. There is some big expert that knows what he's doing. One company for its AI department are willing to spend billions of dollars to get him on board. And if it goes through, boom, we get news stories saying that said person from company A is joining company B for $3 billion. And the company that bought, I say bought, so there's no other way to describe it, bought the individual expert for their AI project. Yeah, this is exactly why AI is on the rise. And I think a long while ago, one of my podcast guests have said that there is more AI advancement in the last few months than it has been than the last few years combined. That's roughly the words he said, and he's absolutely right. AI is growing at a rapid rate. We don't know when it will stop, but no matter how hard we try to slow down the process, it's only going to speed up. And of course, in terms of the experts joining other companies to progress with its AI projects, it's only the beginning. This is only the beginning of AI. You think it's over? No, it is not over. This is just the start. And it's not slowing down, no matter how hard people try to do so. This is only the beginning. And of course, organizations, firms, and individuals are doing what they can to ensure they are protected against acts from AI in their day-to-day life. Hopefully, people use whatever time they have left before eventually AI is integral to our day-to-day life. Not yet, but someday, in the not-so-distant future, it's gonna happen. Investigators used DNA testing to identify a woman found dead in 1974. New Hampshire authorities identified a woman discovered deceased in a wooded location near Route 124 in Marlborough on April 16, 1974, as Nancy Gill Erickson. Erickson abruptly left Tampa in 1973 and was arrested for car theft in Vermont shortly before disappearing, leading to decades without contact or identification. Forensic teams used DNA analysis to match the unidentified remains, found without ID but dressed in multiple garments, to Erickson's siblings to confirm her identity. The investigators determined that Erickson died in late fall 1973 at age 21, with officials emphasizing that while identifying her remains was an important first step, further efforts are needed to understand the circumstances surrounding Nancy's death. The identification after more than 50 years highlights DNA forensic testing's role in resolving cold cases and encourages contacting authorities to provide more information on Ericsson's finals year. Wow, what a story. A woman who has been unalive around 1973, 1974, and only now there's so much more information about the passing of Nancy. Technology does go a long way, but of course it's very sad that someone lost their lives. Even we do not know what is the exact reason for having that to have happened. It's still sad nonetheless, and maybe what is to come out of the story, maybe similar circumstances may not arise ever again, or at least won't arise as often, knowing what is to come from the investigation and the DNA analysis. Lazydays announces closing of 1 for 30 reserve stock split. Tampa, Florida, July 11th, 2025. Lazydays Holdings, Inc. today announced that the company filed a certificate of amendment to the company's restated certificate of incorporation with the Secretary of State of the state of Delaware to effect a reverse stock split of the company's issued and outstanding common stock, par value $1 per share, by a ratio of 1 for 30. The reverse stock split took effect at 5 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time on July 11th, 2025. The company's common stock is expected to begin trading on a reverse stock split adjusted basis on the Nasdaq Capital Market at market open on July 14th, 2025. Hello, Risk.
Hello. Did
Have
you
you heard
hear about
about
the fact that Carney's basically got so much stocks that it's like a freaking walking contradiction. Like
well.
100 assets, right? So that 100 plus, if not more, freaking conflicts of interest. How the hell can someone run for president if they run as a world leader if they've got that much conflicts of interest? Specifically in renewable energies, oil and gas, Amazon, tech. It's just interesting.
Some people are just so desperate for power.
What? Did you hear about the 17-year-old in Scotland?
No, I have not heard about the 17-year-old in Scotland.
Basically tried to do a terrorist attack on a mosque. Suspected to be heavily big news in the news, and suspect us to get more for them to heavily go after, restrict anybody that criticises Islam. That's what's coming.
I see.
What else is there?
Have you heard about Lazyday announcing 1 for 30 reverse stock split?
Lazyday, what are they? Like, are they like some type of...
No, it's the first time I'm hearing about Lazydays, but apparently what they're saying is they're doing a reverse stock split, 1 for 30.
Reverse stock split normally tends to happen that they face delisting, or quite frankly, there's just not enough fucking demand for their stock. That's why they would do it. That's what I think they would do it anyway. That's the only reason why I can see why you would do a reverse stock split. Is if you're trying, if your stock is that, or you face delisting, basically. I think there's a certain requirement. If you go under a certain requirement, you basically automatically get delisted. But there is more consumer aggregation with mergers and acquisitions. Both parts of Kellogg are going to be freaking looking to be acquired. The European business by Mars, the American business by Fiero. Both private companies are not public. So more private ownership of the food industry compared to being public. So what else is there?
Turkish president hails the start of disarmament by militant Kurdish separatists.
I think China's going to frickin' move close to the West.
How so?
Because I think I know some things.
Of course you
But
do.
it's not widespread. But let's just say this, right? You know how the CCP's been having inside factions, right?
Yes.
The party elders have put in a new commission that is now above him. Jai now answers to a new commission by party elders. He lost the battle. They're giving him a good exit. They're giving him an exit ramp. But Jai will be stepping down soon, and they're going to move closer to the west. but China's going to move closer to the West. It's going to become more economically friendly. I think it's going to limit its actions on Taiwan. I think it's going to try and move more close to the West in the sense that it needs to if it wants its economic trade. And I think CCP is going to democratize heavily. You remember when there was a trade deal with Trump and China, right? The trade deal with Trump and China.
Yes.
They basically said we're going to open up China like it's never been opened before, things we could never do before. He plans on opening it up. They're planning on making the faction that promoted opening up by Deng Xiaoping in the early 90s and the 2000s. It's going to go back to that. They want to open up. They want to do more trade with America. They want to do more trade with the West. And what happens next with Russia is God knows. I think Russia's going to turn on. I think China's going to turn on Russia, and I think China's going to settle for being a top 2 power. And they don't need to be a top 3 power. They don't need to be a top 1 power. I think they should settle for being a top 3 power. They've got a good. What? I honestly don't see why China has to be number 1. Like, what do they gain from being number 1?
All the
Why
global
can't they
influence.
just settle being a top 3 power, top 3 or top 2 power, or
Because
top 4?
nothing is ever enough for them.
Yes, but if you go to the only way you're going to freaking supplant. China's been exposed as a paper tiger. They're not strong. The military's not strong, and they haven't got a good. They might have a good land force, right? But any land they take from India, I don't think they could keep for long periods of time in a war. So what else is there?
Canyon sees evacuations, closures because of Arizona wildfires.
This might not be good.
Of course it's not.
Lloyd's Banking Group in talks to buy digital wallet provider Curve. I'm not so sure that's a good thing, but
People were evacuated from the Grand Canyon, and part of it remained closed after the White Sage and Dragon Bravo fires started in the area, scorching thousands of acres. As of Friday, July 11th, the White Sage fire was at 10,793 acres, and the Dragon Bravo fire was 1,500 per an incident map.
now this is quite interesting. Apple bids for Formula One US streaming rights. Business Insider reports. Now that is some big business if Apple can land that contract.
Oh yeah.
That'll be major business for them.
Oh yes. Do you know what else would be major business?
What?
Adobe partnering up with the English Premier League.
Adobe?
Yes, Adobe partnering with the English Premier League.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What else is there? I still think Rumble will be big in the future.
Yeah, it just takes time.
Rumble joins the Russell 2000 and 3000 indexes.
Cool.
It's got potential.
It does,
With
yeah.
YouTube becoming more thingy.
I think YouTube will still have a noticeable
YouTube
presence.
will still have a big thing, but I can see Rumble acquiring Kick and merging Kick with Rumble.
Yeah, I could see that happen. And I do think there is a benefit to that acquisition.
Merging Kick and Rumble together. Imagine you have the video streaming platform and you have Kick. That would give them a better thingy. If I'm being honest, I can see Twitch selling off Rumble. I can see Twitch being sold off, Amazon selling off Twitch. I don't know who would buy it. Who knows? Maybe they'd even spin it off its own separate company. Who knows? Maybe some private equity firm might look to acquire it. Sports. So what else is there?
Elon Musk's XAI seeks up to $200 billion valuation in next fundraising.
Wrong time, my guy. Wrong time. He
It's
wants
over.
to fucking do that after the whole shit show with the fucking racist AI. Does he really think Jews will want to fund that? They're the ones with money.
Yes, but Elon Musk is the richest man in the world. He thinks he can do whatever he can because he has the money to do so.
He can fund out of his own fucking pocket. That's what he wants. There's people looking at. Trust me. There's people in the middle, very wealthy people looking at it and thinking maybe it might be time to just fucking set that psycho fucking free. He made us a boatload of fucking money. Maybe it's time to let that guy fucking go off into the eon yonder. I wouldn't be surprised if the SpaceX lady quits. CEO quits. I wouldn't be surprised if the Tesla board fire him. So what else is there? The best thing I love dividends. The best thing ever.
Oh, yes.
I just got paid off Sainsbury's today. Not bad. Just for holding the shares and doing nothing. The stock is still down, but
A win's
not
a
by
win.
much in dividend. Dividends are a win. 2 a year. So what else is there?
El Chapo pleads guilty to U.S. drug trafficking charges.
Interesting.
Ovidio Guzman Lopez, son of drug lord Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, pleaded guilty in a U.S. court to trafficking fentanyl, cocaine, and other drugs. He also admitted to money laundering and firearm charges, though sentencing terms remain unclear.
We need to really get the people that are the Epstein pedophiles arrested. They need to go. But it won't happen.
Of course it won't happen, because it's both sides or someone involved in it.
That, and it's got monarchies that are involved in it as well.
Exactly.
And they stole a shitload of power in this country and other countries. So who's the most powerful country in the world?
Militarily, the United States.
But
There's always a but, yes.
personnel doesn't mean make a war anymore.
Exactly. It's all about the firearm.
It's all about the
weaponry.
firepower and the technology.
Exactly.
There's no need. We're not fighting World War. We're not fighting a global war. We don't need 1 million people putting their lives on the line for a battle. China and Russia are so old-fashioned. They think you still need 1 million troops to run a fucking camp, to run a freaking military. You don't. You need to focus on technology. I would say the UK might be one of the top 3 technology-wise. I don't think China's anything special. I don't think Russia's anything special.
Yeah.
I would say we're top 3. I would say I wouldn't even put. They say some people like to place South Korea above us, but can South Korea operate in multiple different continents at once? No. South Korea is basically a land force. They can't. They wouldn't be able to operate in multiple different continents. I don't know if we'd truly be effective. But so what else is there?
Arizona patient unalive by bubonic plague in emergency room.
Looks like they're trying to do anything to freaking. Florida tried to create certain parts of Florida tried to create a sanctuary state last week, but they got heavily rate. But the governor heavily rounded them. So who do you think's Democrats' best pick for 2028? There is a civil war going on.
So, Democrats' best
Seems
bet.
to be a good pick. You're saying?
I was going to say it's either between Josh Shapiro, Pete Buttigieg, and dare I say, Gavin Newsom.
None of them will win.
But what other choice do they have besides Kamala or AOC?
Fetterman, a semi-moderate Democrat. He's not going to win the progressive left vote, but he might actually be able to squeeze enough fucking moderate Democrat and moderate fucking Republicans and moderate Democrats enough to fucking form a coalition win. If you go with people like freaking AOC, the thing is, Jasmine Crockett and AOC are not the future of the Democrat Party. You have Fetterman basically saying it's retarded to get rid of ICE. He's taking a stance of being a moderate Democrat. He's calling out his own colleagues. They're going to heavily try and oust that bloke come the re-election cycle. What do you think the chances are Fetterman switches to Republicans?
I won't rule it out, but as of now, I don't think there is any signs that he would switch parties anytime soon.
Even if it looks like his own fucking people want to try and oust him and force him as an independent. If Eric Adams wins the New York election, what do you think the chances are that he becomes a Republican?
I'd say the same, although I wouldn't rule it out. I'm not sure how much of his views would be compatible with the Republican Party.
Good point. He doesn't seem like a guy that's fucking obsessed with climate change, to be fair.
No.
What the fuck are they planning?
What are they planning?
Perhaps looking to break up its company. Is this because they've got a private equity buyer in line? Must be.
Maybe, yeah.
People that were interested in buying Kellogg said they were interested in investing in freaking consumer products. It would suck if Kraft fucking was to go private. I actually quite enjoy getting my dividends off Kraft. I've got a decent amount of money in them. There's an individual company, not just owned as Berkshire, but the market pros Herald to save for use back. I think they're going to get rid of some of their older brands. The brands they're going to get rid of, they're going to get rid of Oscar Myers. Might spin off their Max Wheelhouse coffee brand. The Jello might go away. Heinz ketchup, they're going to keep Heinz ketchup because that's a big business. The tomato soup business is going to stay. Maybe they might sell off them Kraft Singles American brand. Who knows?
Who knows?
Well, Lunchables, to a certain point, it sells pretty well in the UK. Maybe
Really?
it's different in the States. Yeah, maybe it's different in the States. From what I'm seeing, I'm always seeing them fly off the shelves. They tend to sell most of them out in like 1 or 2 days. And that's like 3 or 4 boxes of it were sent. Tend to sell most of it sold. Maybe it was a smart move for me to buy consumer goods companies. Because I feel like I'm going to make a fucking fortune off them. Because some of them are going to cash out. My only question is, are they going to sell it to a private equity firm? Are they going to spin it up? Or is some of the assets going to be acquired by maybe, who knows? I know for one, I don't think Unilever has any intention of buying any food brands, in my view. Because to me, they seem more focused on frickin' soup and Fet Pet soup. They seem more focused on their frickin' like soap brands. Anything else, or is that us?
There's a YouTube video. Professor shocks students speaking Gen Alpha slang.
Oh, well,
And it's interesting. A lot of people laugh, but otherwise, is this how language is going to go down? Like, I mean, of course, there's going to be progression of how we speak, but not like this. I
I
do
think
question.
Tim Cook's going to be leaving Apple pretty soon.
I think it's time.
I think they're going to prioritize. I think the next CEO is going to be very AI focused.
Yes,
That seems like one. Tim Cook has done a great job for the company. I think this company, Apple, at this moment in time, I personally don't think AI is as big as they think it is.
even it is making progress, it's not
If
enough
I
to.
were them, I'd focus more on cloud computing and semiconductors. If I'm being honest, I think that would be more of a bigger business for them than anything. Why focus on AI? Why focus on AI when you can own the manufacturing of you can own the company, the manufacturing of freaking creating semiconductors and silicon chips? There's realistically only maybe one big company that can do the chips, right? Nvidia. Everybody else is just playing catch up. So I asked the question, why not make an acquisition for Nvidia? Could Apple afford to acquire Nvidia?
It could, yes. In fact, Apple is realistically the only company that is likely to acquire Nvidia.
It's got a market cap of 4.2 trillion.
Yeah, it has a very high valuation.
Would Apple be willing to pay that much for a fucking company?
Not at the moment. Of course not at the moment, but if they really want to, give it a few years, once they've increased their revenue margins,
Nvidia
then
is only going to get bigger. When AI becomes more and more important, Nvidia is only going to become more. Nvidia effectively has a pre-made monopoly.
yeah, it's now or never for Apple.
They want into that space. Streaming's nothing to them, if I'm being honest. I wouldn't even waste my time with that. Companies I think will be very big in the future, or future trillion-dollar company, Palantir
Oh yes,
Technologies.
absolutely, Palantir.
Fucking a $2 trillion company, and I invested when it was only at $5 a share, sitting on a 700x return, 700% return.
Totally
If I
worth it.
invested 20 grand in that, I would have been sitting on fucking near 100 G's, if that, maybe more. I had like 100 shares in it, 200 shares at one point, but still have a decent amount. I just cashed out some a couple months ago. So what else is there? I think Tesla will either become a big company or it'll fizzle out.
I feel Tesla would likely fizzle out because if electric
I
vehicles,
don't think it'll be as big as they say it will. I think, don't get me wrong, I think it will still be very valuable, but
it won't be as
I
big
think
as they
Musk will
want
get
them
sacked.
to.
I think Musk will get sacked. I don't see these certain people putting up with him. He's not there. He never works.
And when he does leave, what happens to all his fanboys that were invested in Tesla since day one? Maybe that's what they're concerned about. Even though people may not like Elon Musk, he has the brand recognition and the presence in the media's landscape. Lawmakers visit Alligator Alcatraz, but some wonder how much they'll get to see.
Not only to see it, but Musk, you dirty boy.
What did he do this time?
Dan Ives, one of the biggest Tesla bulls, demanded the board take action against the CEO.
Of course.
The picture of Dan Ives would be next to it. The Wedbush Securities tech analyst never waives his conviction is the most undervalued. In a view, the share ought to trade close to 620, with Tesla deserving of a $2 trillion market cap, really more than double what it's currently worth. Nor does Ives tire company's board to adopt a carrot and stick approach to ensure the entrepreneur invests his limited time in the company rather than in politics. I like this. I like Mr. Ives. This is right. Get Musk fucking working his companies and get him out of politics. He has no business being in politics. That man needs to fucking run his companies. Company did not respond for come at a sensitive time. Tesla's yet to face investors this year, nor has it set a date or an agenda for its shareholder meeting. Given the advance notice needed and the ongoing summer break, it might once again be September before an AGM will be covered. Top of the agenda would likely be a new pay packet for CEO, who is goading the White House with continued attacks against Trump. House plans to create a special oversight committee and links to pay to guardrails. The thing is, though, things will be learned. Things will be taken note. Things will be learned from this, right? There'll be guardrails for future contracts with other CEOs. Other CEOs will take notice. Other company boards will take notice, and they'll put guardrails in to make sure incidents like with Musk do not happen again. I told you that there's people that are pissed at him. I think I can see him being sacked. It'll be interesting to watch, Jamie. It'll be interesting to watch
Yes.
see Musk get sacked. He will get sacked.
It'll be out the
There
door in
are
no
many
time.
people that are pissed at him. People from the left, people from the Republican Party. These people are not poor. These people have very, very valuable money. Big money on the line. Big money on the line. A lot of people have invested in Tesla. So it's a future gain. A lot of very wealthy American and British investors. Very wealthy people. Very wealthy men and women. Majority men. But saw opportunity. This is coming from private equity all the way to pension funds. So this has governments involved as well.
And just like that,
State
Risk
governors
has
have a
mysteriously
responsibility
exit the chat.
to their
Not like he
their
intended to,
states.
but he just vanished.
Pension, if they feel that their pensions, state pensions are
Usually
not
I would
being
say
used,
something in
money's not being used wisely,
situations
they
like
can
this,
withdraw it.
but it's becoming so normalized now. Like, yeah, so we just said something that particular groups of people don't like to hear. Now, I'm not sure if Race is going to join back on, but that is very important to note. Whatever happens in this world, you can never be too certain. And of course, the business world is moving fast. Just like when Risk invested in Palantir when it was like a couple of dollars per share, and now he's earning 100K. Which is pretty impressive. It's madness. That you don't see that happening often with a lot of people. So always expect the unexpected, no matter what. Until Risk arrives back, there's another story I was going to read. 1-year-old Californian boy dies after being left in hot car. Well, mom got cosmetic procedure. 1 year Emilio Gutierrez died after being hospitalized with a body temperature of 107 degrees. Assuming 107 degrees Fahrenheit, not Celsius, because that would be unbearable. Authorities estimate the children were left without air conditioning for at least 90 minutes. Hernandez has been arraigned on charges of involuntary manslaughter and child cruelty. In the last month, 10 children in the US have died after being left in hot cars. What's this about? What's the point leaving children in cars, especially in weather like this, knowing it's dangerous? Or maybe there are some mothers that may not care too much about child safety. I really hope that's not the case, but it's hard to deny that cases like that are likely to happen. That is wild. Crazy. Something has to be called out. 200 arrested, 1 dead in chaos at California cannabis farm. Immigration. On July 10th, federal immigration agents at Glass House Farms in Ventura County reported a farm worker's death after a 30-foot fall, confirmed by UFW on July 10th. Amid President Trump's intensified deportation efforts, DHS conducted the largest raid since its campaign began, alleging child labor violations while the union disrupts such laws apply to farm workers. Immigration agents arrested about 200 migrants, hospitalized 8, and used tear gas and less lethal weapons during the July 10th raid at Glasshouse Farms in Ventura County. Following the raid, Mayor Karen Bass signed a directive requiring city departments to prepare response plans. Workers were detained for over 8 hours, and the company offers legal support. A U.S. District Court judge is expected to rule Friday on an ACLU lawsuit challenging immigration raids amid farm groups, warning such enforcement threatens the food supply chain. I really have to think about this one. I really do. I'm not against people entering foreign nations. The issue is, how are they entering? If there is documentation regarding the immigrants in question, okay, they can stay and of course, they get a job that they are very good at and they contribute to the local economy. If all that's done and set, fantastic. Just live your life in the country you want to live in. But otherwise, it's either go back a few steps or don't bother coming to begin with. The United States immigration officers, although people are saying that they're being too rough on the foreigners and they're going all out on the deportation efforts. Now, what would happen? What would that be like in other countries around the world? I've seen a couple of videos across social media discussing immigration to other foreign countries. A lot of people have said that the stance on immigration are particularly a lot stricter than what the United States are doing. At least there's a warning given to people in the US, to our foreigners, to at least prepare whatever documentation they have to confirm that they are allowed to continue living in the US and continue to work. But otherwise, again, I can't be too harsh on people who want to immigrate to foreign countries to provide better lives for their families. But there is no defending not having the proper documentation that proves that there is permission granted to enter the country, as well as the ability to provide and contribute to the local economy with the skills that said people currently possess that would benefit said local community. Well, I do hope all of this does get resolved and we could just continue living our lives. Something like this shouldn't have happened to begin with, but yet here we are because there hasn't been a stronger stance to begin with, and I do not encourage any violence whatsoever. The last thing we want is people getting hurt. No one wants that. But there will come a point that someone will put the foot down. And what's going to happen? How will you react to this news? Are you in hot water or will you be alright? If you're in hot water, then, well, you're screwed. I don't want to see people like that, but that's what's going to happen. Life can be unfair sometimes, if not most of the time. But even then, life will get better. What's important is you try to make the best of the worst situations. Because, of course, there's always a silver lining with whenever bad things happen to us. Just like what Shadowminer always says. There's always a silver lining to everything, no matter how bad the situation is. You can always work around the restrictions and obstacles and make something new out of it. Quebecers are the happiest in Canada. Well, this is the first I'm hearing this. Between the end of March and mid-April 2025, Lega completed an online poll involving 40,000 Canadian adults to assess the nation's overall happiness. The survey sought to reflect regional, generational, and social factors, applying adjustments according to participants' sex, age group, and geographic location to accurately mirror the population. Canadians reported an average happiness score of 68.7 out of 100, with Quebec leading at 72.4, following by New Brunswick at 70.2, and Manitoba and Prince Edward Island at the lowest scores, 66.7 and 66.5 respectively. About 49% said their happiness remained stable, 28% reported a decline, and 23% felt happier. Younger age groups showed signs of emerging well-being despite overall fragility. The findings indicate a people who remain resilient despite facing daily uncertainties, with happiness levels that have remained steady but show little improvement compared to those recorded before the pandemic. Well, there you go. People in Quebec are apparently much happier amongst all Canadians, I guess. Now I know where I'll move to if I ever want to get out of the UK. But of course, I wonder if the rent prices are going to be affected by the time I arrive. Probably not, but it's worth a shot anyway. I want to know what did happen to Risk. I know he got cut off saying something important, but I'm not hearing anything from him right. Huh. That's interesting. Anyway, that is the episode, and I'll see you in the next one.